Welcome to Corrections Mama 27 channel. I'm going to talk about some pretty rotten things that the Department of Corrections did. This was a personal experience. It did happen in my building, and I took steps to manage and handle things, and they didn't like it. So, in the dorms and stuff, the inmates have lockers and stuff, and they paint those lockers and try to make them look nice. Well, these lockers, I guess, were getting a little funky, rusted or whatever, so they decided to buy some new paint. I don't know how they got this paint. It was on clearance somewhere. Certainly not in Walmart, but it was on clearance from maybe the state of California. This was naval paint. This was paint that they use to paint battleships, military ships. So they would paint the outside of those ships to waterproof them with this paint. And this paint was a gray paint, and it was very, very thick and very, very, very toxic. So there was an officer that was in charge. I believe his name was Ree. I'm going to change his name. Leave out one letter. So Ree was in charge of the work crew, and they were painting the lockers with this paint. But this paint smelled so bad. It was so strong. It was putting off VOCs like you wouldn't believe. Like, it was making people sick. We were throwing up. We were going home with migraine headaches and all kinds of problems. And it was making everybody super sick. It was making the inmates that were painting sick. It was making the work crew boss sick. It was making me sick because I was in the control room. And what they would do is empty out a run and do all the painting and then let the inmates come back. And the inmates were coming back and getting sick too. Who knows? Maybe an inmate that was part of this might remember this situation. I'm trying to think what unit was. It was either Bachman or Steiner. But this is what we found out, because I got posted in the same building a couple of times when they were doing this stupid project. And there were 6 pods that they had to paint. And I talked to the boss, and I went down the run, and I'm like, what the heck are they using that's making everybody sick? And I looked at the paint, and I looked at the label, and the label had this big skull and crossbone on it, saying it was poisonous, that it was cancer-causing, that it caused respiratory stress, that you had to wear a respirator to use it, and you don't want it touching your skin, and you don't want to breathe it in. Do you think they gave those workers, some kind of respirator that would help them from getting sick from the toxins of the chemicals that were off-gassing from that paint? No, inmates didn't get it, neither did staff. I found in the Department of Corrections, different states I worked at, that if they're fair to inmates, they're fair to staff. If they're unjust to inmates, they're unjust to staff too. So that just gives you the mindset of the administration. And then, I don't know. Anyway, the inmates were getting sick. They started calling out. Other officers were calling out because of this paint. It was really nasty. And then Reed decided to call ICS because inmates were throwing up in the run that we're painting. So we looked at those labels and was like, oh my God, this stuff is super toxic. Like, how can they even force you guys to do that? He's like, I know, I get these terrible migraine headaches. And there were other people that were saying they were suffering from it. The inmates were also suffering, probably even more because they were doing the painting. So I was ticked off. I was like getting sick too. When I would go home, I felt off and I felt really sick, and I was getting sick and stuff and headaches and everything. So, yeah, I ended up calling OSHA from the phone at work. I had a 9 line, and I just, what did I do? How did I get that number? I don't remember how I got that number. I called somebody and got it, or I called 411 and got the phone number to OSHA, and I called it from work. The phone lines are recorded, so it's no surprise they knew who called. But what the heck? What do you mean? You're mad because I called OSHA. Of course I called OSHA. You guys are rotten. This stuff causes cancer. How can you do that to other human beings? You know this stuff is super toxic. I don't care that you got it for 10 cents for 1,000 gallons of paint. It's not worth it. This isn't meant to be used indoors. It says that it's an outdoor paint. It says that it's used for battleships on the labels. There's skulls and crossbones on the label. By the way, Ree, I don't know why you went along with that. You were the work crew boss. You seen the paint jars. You didn't see them big skull and crossbones on the label? You should have said no. Right? Not doing it. So I called OSHA and complained about it and explained to them what was going on. I read them information off of the label. And, yeah, OSHA's kind of crooked, I think. But anyway, they didn't tell them they couldn't use it. No. Or maybe the department ignored what they told them or paid the fine and said, keep going. They probably just paid the fine. This is why DOC did not like me. All right? I didn't put up with that bullshit. It wasn't right. If it's not right and you're hurting other people in the process of your agenda, I'm not okay with that. So I would report them. What else could I do? They knew about it. And they just didn't care. So I reported them, and they were mad at me, and I got shit posts for 6 months. I didn't care. So, yeah, they were painting lockers with battleship paint that was super toxic and cancer causing. And it clearly said only to be used outside, that it was used to paint the hulls of battleship on the outside. It wasn't an indoor paint. I'm telling you, these departments and state government is crap. It's crap. They don't care about anybody. All right? They don't. They don't care. They paid the fine and they kept painting. They painted those lockers. That paint is still on those lockers today. They painted them all. That battleship gray paint. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so then the work crew boss and the inmates suddenly, within a day or two, they cut off their painting, took a few days off. Then, next thing you know, they have them painting with respirators. The big respirators with the big old round things and stuff. They had them painting with that. I still think that was messed up. Because that paint, now you're exposing the inmates to this cancer-causing paint. And who knows what else it's got in it, lead or whatever, who knows. So, I don't understand it. I don't think it was fair. I don't think it was right. And they did it anyway. They just gave those inmates some respirators. And the main control person, they took out of there and just gave Ree a set of keys to key himself in and out, and didn't have anyone make control, because the VOCs and everything from that paint was going through the air conditioning vents into main control. So, yeah. And then they said I was a troublemaker. I'm the troublemaker? And you're introducing poisons into the buildings where we have people. All right? Inmates or staff. We're still human beings. We're still people. We need to be treated with respect. Yeah, so anyway, that's how that went. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, share, and comment.